Hello fellow Psychonauts! This month is Pride, and I wanted to make a video to celebrate. Yeah! And what better way to do so than by calling out homophobia in our very own psychedelic community. Now this may be controversial, not because I think so, but because that's what it was called by the person in question today. Fellow psychedelic YouTuber, your mate Tom.
This has got to be the most controversial piece of content I've ever released.
I myself have been a fan of your mate Tom for a long time now. He's made some very informative and quite beautifully shot documentaries on psychedelic ceremonies and culture, unafraid to address the dark side of these experiences. I consider him to be one of the top 3 psychedelic YouTubers alongside Dakota of Earth and Psyched Substance. Now, all of these YouTubers have said things in the past that I disagree with, and that's fine. I don't have a problem disagreeing with people over this or that on the odd occasion. But what I am addressing with our mate Tom is not minor, it's deeply troubling. So what is this so-called controversy? Well, it all started when a very concerned psychonaut reached out to me about our mate Tom hosting an ex-New Age turned hardline Christian on his podcast named Stephen Bankars. And you know it's going to be good when he introduces it like this.
Alrighty guys, so this has got to be the most controversial piece of content I've ever released on this channel. Which is quite ironic because it's like, I never thought that Christianity would be such a revered topic, but for whatever reason it is, man.
Really, Tom? You don't know why Christianity is controversial? The Crusades, the Inquisition, colonization, the Ku Klux Klan, Reagan. The body count of the children left in mass unmarked graves by Christian institutions is over 300 and rising in this country I live in. Well, I'm not making this video to refute Christianity because, like the psychedelic community, there are a vast number of ideologies under that umbrella with varying degrees of ethics. And that's a video for another time. No. What I want to address is the notion of platforming people allegedly from all over the spectrum. As our mate Tom said, he is an open-minded,
relentless seeker of truth.
And that he is open to conversation.
So anyone who's keen to have I don't even like the word debate, a conversation. Let's have a reasonable conversation.
A friendly discussion.
So fellow Psychonauts, let's have a respectful chat. The first thing I want to address is this statement.
I think that Stephen Bankars, he's a really cool dude. He has some very interesting ideas.
Okay, so here we are on Stephen Bankars' YouTube channel, and I thought we could watch his most viewed video together and we can see how cool this guy really is. It's got over 1 million views.
Have you ever wondered why some books or objects feel inherently Hindu, or inherently pagan, or inherently esoteric? The reason is because these objects and books and tools, they are charged with a spiritual frequency that matches the delusion that powers are trying to create in the spiritual realm. And by holding on to these things, we are creating a bridge between these supernatural realities, what the Bible calls heavenly places that are ruled by demonic principalities, and our life, our home, our soul. And so principalities that have been set over Hinduism, for example, the false gods of Hinduism, we don't just interact with the demon gods, we interact with the spiritual playing field that the demon gods have worked night and day trying to create. And this playing field gets attached and yoked onto our consciousness and becomes a part of the lens that we see reality through. And occult objects and divination tools, they are the bridge between these false spiritual playing fields created by principalities and the natural world. It's how they infiltrate and advance their kingdom here. It's through these objects. And because demons have legal ground, legal right to these objects in the spirit, what it does is it gives demons legal right to oppress you. And right now we're going to go through a list of things that should be burnt. And I recommend burning them because that's what they did in the book of Acts. So the first thing is books. Occult books, New Age books, Gnostic books, esoteric books, Transcendentalist books, Hindu books, Buddhist books, yoga books, any books that advocate reincarnation, crystals, aliens, universalism, pantheism, use of drugs, spiritism, sorcery, magic, mysticism, quote-unquote spiritual awakening, any false version of Jesus, Atlantis, theosophy, fiction card book decks, tarot cards, angel deck, ascended master deck, fortune-telling magic card deck, idols and statues, Buddha statues, Hindu idols, dragons, fairy, elves, pagan gods, Greek mythology statues, etc. There's a reason why idol worship is equated with demon worship, and it's because of what these idols are representing in the spirit. It's not because God's a bigot, it's because he knows what's going on. crystal balls, crystal wands, crystal jewelry,
crystal stones, anything that's been used for divination, spiritism, and witchcraft. You're going to want to get rid of clothing items with pagan symbols, anything with all-seeing eyes or the flower of life, anything with a witchcraft symbol on it or an esoteric symbol. You're going to want to get rid of CDs, like meditation music, chanting, any music with occult, satanic, or esoteric themes. You're going to want to get rid of tapestries, jewelry, posters, movies and DVDs, trinkets, masks, dream catchers, incense, sage, pendants, anything like this.
So God does not want us involved in these practices. These practices are worthy of hellfire. We don't want to be recycling them back into the satanic kingdom to be used by other people to pervert other people's spirituality. We want to get rid of them permanently and just rid them off the face of the planet if we can by burning them.
Okay. Well, that was a lot more outwardly Hindu-phobic than I was expecting. That list was extensive. I have to be completely honest, I really have no idea what content from Stephen Bankar's Tom saw and thought, wow, what a cool dude. Was it the video where he says Barbies are demonic for promoting yoga? What our mate Tom means when he says that this guy is cool is that even though he rejects any belief that doesn't align with his own, proudly proclaiming everything he doesn't like as demonic, he should be heard, accepted, and embraced in our space.
No.
But oh, it gets worse. About a year ago, Steven posted this on his Instagram. A man messaged me today saying that he has been delivered from homosexuality, drugs, and New Age at the same time. This is the power of Jesus at work. Only Jesus Christ can convict a man overnight to forsake his entire life. Only Jesus can not just impart truth, but set a man free from sinful desire to serve and love the living God. Only Jesus produces this kind of fruit. No other person, no other prophet, no other teacher, no other name. This was particularly special for me to hear because what he read was the first article I ever wrote when I got saved. This isn't just disapproval or apprehension around homosexuality. This is treated as a personal achievement for Bankars that his content converted somebody out of being gay. He even had the audacity to hashtag LGBTQ on this post. Conversion therapy is unethical pseudoscience, founded on the baseless assumption that there is something wrong with queer, trans, and gender nonconforming people to begin with. It often leads to trauma, depression, social alienation, low self-worth, and suicidality. If you want to look more into the horrific methods and outcomes of conversion therapy, or you could use some support, I left links down in the description. So I left our mate Tom a comment stating Bankars was extremely homophobic, because he is, openly. Tom did not engage with this criticism. I guess the accusation wasn't enough for our mate Tom to take seriously? A little later, our mate Tom platformed yet another far-right Christian, Jay Dyer, to discuss the conspiracy theory of the Great Reset, which is a whole other bag I am not going to get into today. So I responded to our mate Tom again in the comments, just stating my disappointment for platforming yet another conspiracy theorist. Yet again, my mate Tom did not respond, but he did heart a reply that stated that I wasn't human. So much for constructive conversation, but the replies continue. These comments have been left up for months. So this conversation comes back to the question, what kind of psychedelic community do we want to foster? One that entertains all sides, no matter how hateful and dangerous the position? Or one that seeks to build a safe and inclusive community? We live in a cis heteronormative society, meaning heterosexuality is seen as the default way to be. This leads to stigmatization, fear, hatred, and general phobia toward queer folks. Psychedelics can be used as a tool to decondition ourselves from these cultural assumptions. However, it also requires the ongoing sober analysis of our own prejudices. It's not something we can vanish with a series of high-dose psychedelic experiences. It's an ongoing effort to challenge our instilled prejudices. As of right now, there is a massive lack of queer representation in the psychedelic community, and we ought to reflect on why that is. It is quite sobering for me to see that, according to my YouTube analytics, 99.99% of my viewers are male. It really makes me question, what am I doing that attracts such a specific demographic? Because I know there are femme and gender non-conforming psychonauts. This is why I greet you all with psychonauts. It's gender neutral. Did you notice? Okay. The current psychedelic community is kind of a boys' club. For all this talk about how psychedelics are going to change the world for the better, there is almost no one talking about the presence of intersectionally marginalized folks in the community. Psychedelic and queer activist Ariel spoke about psychedelic privilege in a way that I think sums up this ordeal very well. Ariel writes, "Psychedelic privilege is the idea that those in the dominant category, for example, white people, cisgender men, straight people, owning class, Christian, those holding power, will receive access to the healing benefits of psychedelics first, and will be punished the least if caught." This really hits the nail on the head, in my opinion. The fact is that psychedelic use is more dangerous for marginalized folks because of how they are treated in our society. White men such as myself have the privilege of being able to take psychedelics relatively safely in public, while the same cannot be said about women, queer, and people of color. This Pride Month, we should all commit to taking steps toward inclusivity and making our community a safer place to be moving forward, and not just during June. It is my hope that by openly talking about these issues with other psychonauts, we will show others that we are accepting and that there is a place in the community for them. However, if we don't start speaking out, our silence will continue to allow this type of bigotry that our mate Tom is fostering. If you are queer, trans, or gender nonconforming, or suspect that you may be, please know that I accept you and will not allow homophobia on this channel. I see you. Trans rights, PK to crime. Just to be clear, like I said in the beginning, this isn't about Christianity. Tom, I know you've had a hard time recovering from a traumatic psychedelic experience. I'm genuinely happy that you are finding acceptance and meaning in your life and feeling emotionally better. But there are different brands of Christianity, and we have to be diligent not to platform bigoted Christians, just like we wouldn't platform bigoted atheists or anybody else. So here is my request to you, my mate Tom. Please take down the Stephen Bankar's podcast and address to psychonauts everywhere that you support the LGBTQ2S+ community. And maybe try featuring not a dude on your podcast sometime too? I don't know. And for some final statements, I really want to be clear that in calling these people into the conversation, I am not advocating for bullying or harassment of any kind. Please do not harass or insult these people. Instead, foster constructive, productive conversations that help move the community toward inclusion. Also, debates are welcome here in the comments. However, I will not tolerate bigotry or insults. Violators of these rules will be yeeted at my discretion. Thank you all for listening. This video was brought to you by the ongoing support of Interbeing Art patrons. If you would like your own Interbeing, sign up at Patreon at any tier, or you can support this channel by making a one-time donation to paypal.me/interbeingart. Any little bit helps a ton. Like, subscribe, ring the bell, and until next week, trip safe.